Good afternoon, and welcome to the Way to Wow Show, People Making Money. I'm your host, Kevin Bemmel. And for those of you who watch the show on a regular basis, you already know that. But perhaps we have some new viewers, and so welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're here almost every Wednesday at 12:30 Pacific time, 3:30 Eastern time, and then an hour in from each of the coasts for the middle time zones. And I say almost every Wednesday. We were off last week for the Jewish holiday. And so now we're back. And my topic for today is a little bit of a takeoff on something my friend Bill Gross talks about, which is if you want to be successful, you have to have a plan. And that can oftentimes be the most difficult part, is figuring out, well, what do I need to do if I want to start a business, or if I'm going to job hunt? What do I need to do? It seems like there's so many steps. There's so many ways you could be spending your time. It can get a bit overwhelming, or maybe more than a bit overwhelming. And so what I did is I went into my library, and it's a real library, about I think 3,800 books. And I pulled off the shelf four of my favorite books on entrepreneurship and job hunting. And then there's one more, because it's the 5 best books for this, right? So one of them, I don't have a hardcover or a hard copy of it. I have a PDF of it only. You can probably guess which book that is. And I want to talk about these books and why they're not just beneficial, but I would argue really crucial resources for you to have if you are planning on or considering starting a business and or engaging in a job hunt. So they will just in general dramatically shorten the time it takes for you to get up to speed on what you need to be doing. They won't just help you develop a plan. They have essentially embedded in them a plan that you can follow, and you can tailor them. You can drop out a step here or a task there, depending on what your exact needs are. But really, they give you step by step what you need to do. And so in that way, you don't have to spend your time figuring out, well, let's see, today's Wednesday, what do I need to do today? You can just be doing the tasks that will drive you forward, getting you closer to success. Now, let me hasten to add that just because you have a plan doesn't mean that therefore you will be successful, right? There's lots of things that determine whether starting a, well, let's start with business. There's many things that will determine whether a business is going to be successful or not. And one of them is how tenacious and committed you are to making it a success. I would say, in my experience, and I've started, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe six businesses at least, of my own and or with partners. No, I guess it's more than that, 7, 8, something like that, and at least 1 or 2 nonprofit organizations as well. So what made the difference between the ones that were successful and the ones that weren't were how committed I or me and my partners were to making that business successful, how hard we worked at it. That there's no book that can teach you that. And you'll hear people like, shoot, I can't think of the guy's name now. He was, and anyway, it doesn't matter his name. He will tell you, your why has to be so big that, it just drives you forward. Honestly, I don't know. This is just me. I've never had a why so big and so compelling that when I was just absolutely dead tired and been slammed down, it seemed like, every day for a week, that I wasn't thinking, why am I doing this? And having second thoughts to, having gotten involved in a particular business. Those times will come. I mean, honestly, there were times when I had no money and I had to do something so I could literally buy some food. And there were still times when I was like, okay, I know it's survival, but man, alive, it just doesn't seem worth it. So you're going to experience those times. They're going to come, unless, you're starting the, what they say, what the easiest way to make $1 million in a business is? Start with 10 million. Right? So you can shrink it by 90%, but you still made $1 million, I guess. And, and even that, I don't imagine is quite so easy as it might seem. So I think we just have to decide, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I do. And for me, that is frankly how I've been successful with and I haven't been successful with everyone. I've been successful with I think maybe 2 or 3 out of the whatever it was, 6, 7, 8, 9 that I started. That's also part of it. Part of it is it's an iterative game. So not every business you start is going to be successful. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to misjudge the market. You're going to have unexpected things happen that make it so that the business will not succeed. And that's just all part of it. So there's no plan that can guarantee you success. And by the way, I've been suckered into signing up for some programs where if you follow this, you're gonna be successful, right? And no, wasn't. And it's not necessarily that the programs weren't good or anything like that. There were underlying issues that the program didn't address, that I don't think I would have been successful in those things no matter what the plan or program had. I was targeting a market that in the end just wasn't going to give me the kind of success that I was looking for. So I would be very, very skeptical about any program or plan or whatever that's being promoted as, this is a surefire road to success. If they're telling you that, I would say, run, don't walk away from that program and go find, some other way. So the ones that I'm going to talk to you about today, they're upfront. They're not going to tell you you're going to be successful if you do this. What they'll tell you is you're more likely to be successful if you follow their guidance, if you follow their plan. And that's the best that we can get, right? A greater likelihood, a greater probability, however you want to express it. If we can shrink the downside odds, okay, then I think it's worth our time to look into how to do that and to follow the advice of people who have been doing this for years, if not decades, and have dealt with a lot of people who have started businesses, job hunted, etc. So, all right, so let's use that as our base, right? And from there, I want to talk about some of these resources. And by the way, and I'll mention this a couple times, I'm sure, during the show, I'll have links to all of these books in the show notes. So you'll be able they're going to be, for the most part, links to Amazon, because that's just the easiest place to get them. They are affiliate links for what that's worth. So if you actually buy a book, I think I get like, I don't know, 8 cents in affiliate fees or something like that. I think in all the years I've earned like 50 cents in affiliate fees. I don't care about that. And I would never recommend a book, merely for the fees. It's just, something that I was taught to do way back when, 10 years ago now, when I started doing these kind of programs. And so, look, 8 cents is better than a jab in the eye with a pointed stick. So I'll take it. But it had no influence on the books that I'm recommending. And I can tell you that all the books that I'm recommending, I not only have used, but continue to use. They're ongoing resources that I look to, whether I'm recommending them to other people, whether I'm using them myself. So that's why I chose these ones. So the first one I want to talk to you about is a book by a fellow named Pat Flynn. And for those of you who are in the entrepreneurial space, you probably know Pat Flynn. I believe he lives down in San Diego, California, I think. And I've actually talked to his assistant about having him on the show, and hopefully one of these days we will. Last time I spoke to her, which is a while ago now, he was in the midst of writing another book, but maybe we'll get him on the show. So this is a book that he wrote, and I don't remember the year now. Let me look at it. It's a few years ago now. Gosh, when did he write this? I don't know. Well, this one was printed in 2016, and I think it was written maybe a year or two before that. So it's about 7 years old, 8 years old, something like that. And it's called Will It Fly? Okay, Will It Fly? And the subtitle is How to Test Your Next Business Idea So You Don't Waste Your Time and Money. Right now, one of the things you're going to find out very quickly when you decide to start a business is basically you have two resources, both of which are limited. One is time and the other is money. And oftentimes, if you lack money or lack enough money, you're going to make up for it by time. So in some ways, time is the more precious. What money does is it allows you to be more productive, if you will. Okay, you can hire some people, or you can use it to automate certain functions if you're doing like an internet-based business, something like that. But in the end, time is going to be the more valuable of the two fundamental resources that you have. Okay, ideas are not a resource. Okay, those of you who've seen the show before, I've mentioned this. There's a million ideas out there, and there's probably a million fantastic ideas out there. An idea is worthless. It has zero value. What? How could that possibly be? I mean, aren't the biggest businesses in the world built on ideas? Well, yes, they are. It's the built part that's the value. It really is. We could get together on a brainstorming session and come up with half a dozen, 20, 50 seemingly brilliant ideas for a business, $1 million ideas. And who cares? I mean, in the end, we're going to have to pick one of them, and we're going to have to put time and effort into bringing it, hopefully, to fruition. But unless we put that time and effort in building the business, the idea means nothing. Okay. One of the things people sometimes get hung up on, in fact, I was in a meeting about this last week, is people say, I've got this idea. It's a multi-million-dollar idea. I can't tell anybody about it. It's like, well, here's the thing. Your idea is probably not as unique as you think it is. That's number one. Number two, if you don't tell anybody about it, it's extremely likely you will not be successful. That's just it. Because in order to be successful, people have to pay you money based on whatever your idea is, your service, buying your product, whatever that is. So if people don't know about it, they can't pay you money, you're not going to be successful. And here's really what makes the difference between a successful business and a not successful business. And I talked about it just a few minutes ago. It's your commitment to it. And if somebody comes, well, so two things. One is, if it's truly a revolutionary idea or a brand new idea, rarely does the first player in become the biggest success. Okay? We talk Facebook, an enormously successful business. It was not the first person in. or the first business in. MySpace beat Facebook. Do you ever hear of MySpace anymore? I mean, it was very popular for a while. And I think, if I remember, News Corp bought it. I want to say the company that used to own 20th Century Fox Studios. And Facebook came along and eclipsed it and just totally destroyed it. Totally destroyed it. Okay. So being the first one in, it is in no way, shape, or form a step up on being successful. Okay. And by the way, if no one has ever done your idea, or if no one is currently working on your idea, it's hard to know whether somebody's ever done it before, right? People could have tried it and failed and you wouldn't necessarily know. If no one is currently working on an idea that you have, the uniqueness of your idea may be due to the fact that other people have tried it and it didn't work. And that's why nobody's currently doing it. That's sometimes the case. Now, I'm not saying, therefore, don't pursue a new idea. If you have a new idea and you've analyzed it and you think it's the way to go, by all means, it could be fine. And you may be the exception to the rule of the first party in being the success. On the other hand, you may be the first, player in, and somebody else will come and steal your idea and become much bigger, and then you'll sell your company to them and you'll walk away with a bunch of money. You'll go do it again. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened in the world. You can still make a lot of money. Okay, so the question then is, how can we efficiently find out if an idea that we have has a chance of succeeding? And that's where Pat Flynn's book is so good, because it takes you step by step through coming up with an idea, validating the idea, testing it out, right? So I'm gonna go to the table of contents here, so you can see. It's just these 2 pages, okay? And well, actually, you probably can't see it on the screen, okay? But he starts out with designing your business, doing some development, bringing it along, okay? And then he uses all these, flying metaphors. So, flight planning, right? Planning it out, figuring out how do you get your first 1,000 fans, right? And then validating the business idea, right? And if you get through all of this, and then he'll talk to you, where do you go from here? Okay? In 300 plus pages, 320 pages or so, he takes you through a complete plan for coming up with an idea, testing it out, validating it, and getting a sense, is this really worth my spending all the time that it's going to take to bring this business to real success? Okay. Now, Pat has tons of other material. He's got, I know he has what he called a podcast. He's got a great website. One of the things he started, one of his early things was he started with the whole food truck business, which I don't know if this is literally the truth, but food trucks are a huge business now. I mean, it used to be they were just like roach coaches. Remember, if you ever heard that name, it was like you never wanted to eat there. And Pat Flynn was at least partially, if not completely, responsible for turning food trucks into this sort of gourmet business. Now I see them in my neighborhood all the time. I don't eat at them, to be honest. I grew up in a time when you didn't eat a food truck. So nothing against any food truck out there, but I'm skeptical. So, and that's just my hang up. Pat has done many successful businesses that he's developed over his time as an entrepreneur. So he knows. He's done all of this himself. He's coached hundreds, probably thousands of other people in doing this through his podcasts and other work. So what I would recommend you do is, if you're thinking about starting a business, you think, God, I really love to start a business, I just don't know what to do. Step 1, buy this book and read the book. Don't worry about doing any of the steps. Just read it and see if the process is something that excites you. If the process doesn't excite you, then maybe entrepreneurship is not for you, and that's fine. better to know that now than to, get involved with something and work and work and work, and it just doesn't come together, and hating what you have to do. And because the bottom line is, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to be selling. Okay. And if you absolutely despise selling, don't become an entrepreneur, because you're going to have to. Minimally, you're going to have to sell a fantastic salesman on becoming the salesman for your business, right? So if that's just not, you, then don't do it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Not everybody is right for, the business startup world. Okay. But read this book and see, is this really, gosh, it actually sounds pretty exciting what Pat Flynn is saying I should do here. So by all means, grab this book, read it. And then if it sounds like something you want to do, or you want to give it a shot, so then start working the process that he describes. Okay. So this is number one book on now. People talk about, there's something about the 4-hour work week, and I don't know. I have tried to read that book, I think 3 or 4 times. I have a friend who loves the book. He's actually read it 4 or 5 times. I've read through parts of it. I don't know. I've never been able to get through the whole book. Tim somebody I think wrote it. To me, for my money, Pat Flynn's book is the best. So get that book. Now, one of the things that I find exciting about starting a business is naming the business. So it's like, when my daughter was born, so we brought her home from the hospital and we didn't have a name for her. We had struggled over what are we gonna name her, and then finally when I came up with a name, it was so exciting. Look, she was born, but it just somehow it made it that much more real, that much more it made her that much more alive, because she wasn't just baby anymore. She was Madeline, right? So the process of naming your business is, I think, one of the crucial steps. If you give it a name that really resonates with you and will resonate with other people, that will help carry you through those struggling times, right? And so then there's a process to coming up with a name. Now, the process I used to use when I was in high school, I may have mentioned this before, is I would talk to my friend Peter and say, Peter, I need a name for this research paper. Here's what it's about. And he'd go, blah, 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 blah. It's like, perfect. Okay. But we grow up. I can't keep, getting free, names from Peter, although he's a genius at it. And the funny thing is, it's not anything he does professionally. It's just, he has a mind that comes up with these names. So I needed to come up with a name for a program, and I saw this, or I probably heard, I think I heard this young woman talking on probably a podcast or something. And so and she was talking about her book, and I ended up getting her book. And the book is called Hello, My Name is Awesome, by Alexandra Watkins. And you can see it's a short book, which is my favorite kind of business book. I'll read a novel that's 1,000 pages long, but when it comes to a business book, please, can we just get to the point? Tell me what I need to know. Tell me what I need to do so I can start taking action. I don't need a lot of stories and belaboring of the points. So this is I don't know. You probably never heard me use this word before. I don't think I have. This is as close to a genius of a book as you will find. I've never met Alexandra Watkins. I maybe should try. I just thinking about this. Maybe I should try and get her on the show. How to create brand names that stick. Right? That's what she teaches you to do in this book. And the process is very simple, and it's easy to do. Alexandra is I think a former marketing executive or something like this. Let's see, what does it say? Okay, she's a founder of Eat My Words, a nationally recognized naming firm, and she's been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Inc., and she has clients, big clients. And you can go to her website at eatmywords.com if you want to know more about her. But I will tell you that the system that she teaches in this book is brilliant. And if there is a brand name that sticks out there for what it is you want to do, this is your best shot at finding it. Okay, because it's very systematic, and there's a tendency to think, oh, I'm doing something creative, I have to just wait until the muse strikes me and get my creative juices flowing, and that's all good and well. But the reality is, in business, most of the time we cannot wait for our creative juices to flow. So we've got to have a system to get them going, right? If you've ever read books about writing, they will tell you, if you want to write well, write every day. It's like, but I'm not inspired to write every day. Right, write every day. Right, write an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever you're going to do, and set that time aside. And just knowing that some of the time, whatever you write, you're going to end up not using, maybe even just completely throwing it away, but minimally, you're going to edit it and improve it. Okay. That's where creativity comes from, right? To sort of paraphrase, I think the only place where creativity comes before work is in the dictionary. And that's just the case. So Alexandra Watkins gives you a system to get your creativity going. That's what's so terrific about the book. You don't have to sit around and wait for inspiration to strike. She's going to help you bring it about, okay? And bring it about when you need it, okay? So, I won't take you through the table of contents. But what I will tell you is, again, just like with Pat Flynn's book, if you're thinking about starting some kind of business, just get this book and then first of all, just read it. Don't worry about following the plan. Read it first. Get a sense of overall what Alexandra Watkins is recommending you do, okay? And then go back and follow it, step by step, okay? I still think you should read Pat's book first. The one of the challenges is you can come up with a completely fantastic name for a business, and that really turns you on. But you get no farther because of all the other stuff you have to do. So this is an augment in terms of motivating yourself to, the overall plan you'll get, working Chris's process in Will It Fly. So go from Will It Fly to hello, my name is awesome. And if you go through those two processes, one of two things is going to happen. One is you're going to end up with a successful business. And now it's great. Wow. And the second thing is you're not going to end up with a successful business, but having been through the process once, you'll have an opportunity to say, okay, why wasn't I successful? Why didn't the business take off? Why didn't I attract clients or customers? And you can go through that evaluation process and then do it again. Okay? The first business I started was not successful, I assure you. And the second business I started, it was successful, but it took a long time, 10 years for it to be successful. That's what it took. I didn't know. Neither of my parents had ever started a business. My paternal grandfather, who I knew when I was just a very little boy, he was a successful businessman, but he was not around. He was gone long before I ever even thought about starting a business. So I didn't really have anybody there. And interestingly enough, we had a sort of a somewhat distant member of the family that I met at one point who was a very successful businessman, and I reached out to him. I said, hey, would you be willing to mentor me? Because, honestly, I need someone who is successful in business, and that my parents are not. Nothing, I wasn't knocking them. It's just they weren't. And he said no. I mean, I was really surprised. Like, wow, okay, it's like, fine. I mean, whatever. People, they make their decisions, but so it can be difficult. The greatest thing I think about business is whether you're successful or not, you learn and you grow. And the fact that you're not successful the first time has no bearing on whether you're going to be successful the next time, in the sense that just because you failed once doesn't mean you have to fail a second time. And there are many people who it took them 2, 3, 4 tries before they were really successful. One of my favorites is Walt and Roy Disney. I forget the number now, but they had several business ventures they tried that didn't fly until finally, they came up with Walt Disney came up with Mickey Mouse, and with Roy's help, they built that into the company that is now. I mean, it wasn't when they ran it, but it has become the largest entertainment company in the world. Right. So, and even in the early days of what was called Walt Disney Productions, I mean, they were successful, but nothing like, it was not a home run, hit the ball out of the park kind of thing. They struggled for many, many, many years until finally they, got up to a level of financial success that, they didn't have to worry about money nearly as much as in the early days. So that's the process of starting a business. So those are my 2 recommendations for books if you're thinking about starting a business. And look, I just want to reiterate this: there's no book that can guarantee you success. One of the things that books will do, though, is they will give you ideas, they'll give you options, things you can try that will increase your chances of success. And it can be exciting to read about business successes. So one of the things I've done throughout my life is read about successful businessmen, starting with, the so-called robber barons, Andrew Carnegie and Rockefeller and all these guys. I was reading about them back when I was in, I think it was 6th grade. I used to go to the library and check out stacks of books about these guys. I found it very exciting. I'll always have, and still do to a certain extent. So I still read about successful people. Right now, I'm reading a biography, actually an autobiography on John Huston, the famous film director from the classic period in Hollywood. And I'm telling you, the book it's virtually impossible to put down. Right? It's like, you got to go to sleep, Kevin. So put the book down. You'll read more tomorrow. So those are good to read, especially when you want inspiration. In terms of plans, though, okay, one more time, I'll show the books. Will It Fly? And then, Hello, My Name is Awesome. So those are to get you started on starting a business. Okay, now, if what you're considering doing is going on a job hunt, okay, so then the 2 books I just recommend, obviously those are not the things to do. You need books that are tailored specifically on job hunting. And there is a classic book. It's been around for literally decades. It is, as far as I'm concerned, the Bible on job hunting. And the book is called What Color Is Your Parachute? Okay. This book, I think, was first published, I want to say in the 1970s, I believe. And let's see, 1970 was the first published, and it was originally written by a guy named Richard Bowles. Now, the reason I kind of chuckle when I said it's the Bible on job hunting is, as I recall, Richard Bowles it was a minister. Now he passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. Virtually everything you need to know about job hunting is in this book. Now, here's the thing. This book is, he calls it a practical manual for job changers and for job hunters and career changers. Okay. So, This book, it works on terms of subjects, but it's not so much of a process per se. Okay, this is really, if you've hunted successfully for jobs before, but you need to tune yourself up in certain areas, this is the book to get. Now, it's published basically every year, and I'm going to share my screen here for a minute, because the version I'm showing you, this was one that somebody gave to me, and this one was published in 2016, if you'll notice. So the most recent version is the 2022 version. Okay, and you'll notice, by the way, author is Catherine Brooks. Okay, so like I said, Richard Bowles passed away, I want to say about 5-6 years ago now. And I remember at the time reading that they were going to be looking for someone to take over, continuing to write the book. And obviously they chose Catherine Brooks. Honestly, I don't know really anything about her. She must know her stuff. They wouldn't have chosen someone, who didn't for such a popular, well-known series. And what was I going to show you? Okay, so and here, look here, you can see the world's most popular and best-selling career guide, Fast Company, time to blah 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 blah. Okay, and they have specialized ones now for different things, for college, teens, etc. The basic book, this is really, I would get this, okay, and use this as your go-to guide. So for example, if you, and I'll stop the screen share now. Here we go. So if, for example, you need to negotiate salary, the 6 secrets of salary negotiation. There you go. That's what you need to do. Okay. Now the nice thing is he has what he calls the blue pages here. I don't know if they're still doing this, but finding your mission in life. So as you'll see when I talk about my book, are you surprised I'm going to? The first thing I have you do is figure out your purpose and mission. Until you know that, I think it's virtually impossible to find a profession that you're really going to enjoy. You're groping in the dark, really, and so that's really the place you want to start. And I'm glad to see in this book that that Richard Bowles took that into account. But in any event, whether he's talking about interviewing, salary negotiations, needing to understand who you are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all of this is contained in this book. And I think the most important aspect of the book that Richard Bowles brings forward is the idea that when you're job hunting, you are not a beggar going to a potential employer saying, please, please, may I have a job? Even when it's not a strong job market. Okay, right now it's a good time for the job market is still pretty strong. There's a shortage of employees. In fact, I talked of that whatever it was 2-3 weeks ago. If you want to go back and look at that show, I look at different industry sectors, or economic sectors, I should say, and talk about what opportunities are available in those sectors for job hunters. So do take a look at that. But you are never a supplicant. You are never a beggar when it comes to getting a job. Now, you may feel pressure. I've got to have a job. I lost my job. I have no way to pay my rent. I get it. I've been there. I assure you I have. Okay? There's been many a times this is back when, you wrote out checks, paper checks, and I'm writing out the check. And I put it in the envelope, and I put a stamp on the envelope, and then I hang on to it, because if I mailed it, it would get to my landlord, and he would cash the check and it would bounce. And I didn't know how I was going to cover that check. So I've been there. It's obviously extremely anxiety producing. Okay. Having said that, the best thing you can do in your job hunt is understand that you are not some commodity that this company is going to buy and abuse. If you take that route, the chances are good that that's what's going to happen. And within a few weeks or a few months at most, you're going to be back where you are. Okay? Only probably a little more bitter, more stressed, okay? And less able to pursue a solid job hunt. Okay. So if you take away nothing else from this episode, it is that when you approach a potential employer, you are offering something valuable: yourself, your knowledge, your experience, okay? Your willingness to work hard, your values. You're offering all of that to the employer in order to help make that employer, that company, that organization successful. And unless you have some little side gig, and even so, you're going to be devoting a significant amount of your time, your life, to do that. And the reality is, no matter what they pay you, they're still making more from your labor than what they're paying you. Otherwise, the company couldn't stay in business. So you are benefiting the company or the organization. Again, it doesn't have to be a company, it could be a nonprofit, whatever, it could be the government. They're getting more out of you than they're paying you. They have to, by definition. Otherwise, they're done, right? Even for a nonprofit. A nonprofit is not paying dividends to their shareholders or something like that, but they're still making more off of your effort than they're paying you because they've got overhead to meet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So, overhead doesn't pay itself. The employees who raise the money or whatever, they're bringing in more money than they're getting paid in order to pay for these other things. Okay. So please, please, please keep that in mind. This is why I do not use the term job interview, because a job interview sounds like you're going and you're, please, may I have a job? Like you're Oliver going up to ask for more food, in Oliver Twist. No, that's not what you're doing. When you sit down with a potential employer, when you sit down with the hiring manager or someone in personnel or whatever stage you're at in the process, you're interviewing them, they're interviewing you. It's a mutual thing. You're meeting to discuss a job. That's why I call it a meeting to discuss a job. That's what's going on. Okay. So please, please, please keep that in mind. Now, if you are not sure what you want to do, if you're considering, maybe you're just recently out of college, maybe you're a mid-career professional thinking of going in a new direction, maybe you're coming out of the military, and you're not sure what you want to do, or you're unhappy with what you're doing and you want to do something else, okay? The single best thing you can do is to choose, come up with some ideas of things that you think you might like to do, areas, sectors of the economy you might like to work in, and talk to people who are already doing what it is you may be doing. This is not asking them for a job. This is doing what are called informational interviews, or what I just call informationals. You're doing informationals. The single best book I have ever found on how to do informationals is Steve Dalton's book, The 2-Hour Job Search. Okay. He takes you literally step by step on how to use technology to be able to do informationals. Now, he talks about it as an overall job hunt. to the point where you're actually getting a job. And the reality is, yes, he does explain that. Where I think this book is the absolute best is in making connections with people that you can talk to about a particular industry, a particular sector of the economy, and see what is it really like to work in this. Okay, what's it like to work in academia? What's it like to work in the entertainment business? What's it like to work in manufacturing or whatever it is that you may be interested in? Obviously, those are very broad fields. You're not going to, I want to work in the entertainment business. Okay, well, I mean, do you want to be an agent? Do you want to be a producer? Do you want to be an actor, actress? Do you want to be a musician? I mean, what is it you want to do? You'll need to be more specific. Okay, but Steve's process that he teaches you in this book is really nothing short of brilliant. Now, Steve, I call him Steve. I've never met him. I should call him Steve Dalton or Mr. Dalton. I've exchanged emails with him, and he's somebody else I've been working to get on the show. So he is in this book. He deals specifically with people coming out of college. I believe he's a guidance counselor at Dartmouth, I want to say. I could be wrong on the university. So that's where his specific expertise lies. Okay, but the plan that he outlines will work not just if you're an alumnus, of a university. It'll work for if you're coming out of the military, because it's kind of like the same thing. In other words, you've got a group of people that you have an affinity with, and you work the system the same exact way. That's what I did. That's how I used Steve Dalton's book. I used it with military people when I was looking at what were the opportunities in academia for someone coming out, in my case, of the Navy, right? And I used his process and contacted other military people who are already in academia, and it worked brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. And again, the book is not that long, a couple of 100 pages, I think. Yeah, even including the quick start guide, it's like 221 pages, right? I mean, and they're short. You can read this book in really just a few hours at the most, I think. So if you are not, especially if you're not sure what you want to do and you need to check them out, you need to check out different, possibilities. This is the book for you. Again, read the book first. Okay, read the whole book first, and then go and follow the plan. And he even gives you like verbiage in the messages to send and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's really, he teaches you how to find people's email addresses. I mean, the whole thing. It's really just marvelous. Okay. Now, if you know what you want to do, but you don't have enough contacts in the field, again, this is the book for you. The reality of a job hunt is the vast majority of positions are filled through referrals. So you can submit all the applications and resumes you want through job boards. This is how you're going to get a job. It's through this process, right? Now, you'll see, Steve Dalton says, don't ask these people for a job. That's not the point. Okay, if you contact people and say, can I talk to you about getting a job? They're going to say no if they respond. Okay, that's not the point of the book. The point of the book is for you to enlarge your the number of relationships you have, enlarge your network, so that more and more people know you and know you well enough. And then when they hear about an opportunity, you're the one they think about. Okay. So again, think about job hunting as creating relationships with people in the field that you want to be a part of. That's really what job hunting is. The reality is, I use that term a lot, I just realized, it's unlikely you're going to have one or two jobs your whole life. It just doesn't work that way anymore. Okay, so in some ways, job hunting is a somewhat continuous process that you'll be engaging in. And so the quality of your professional life is going to be very, very closely related to the quality of the professional relationships that you have. Okay. And that's where Steve Dalton's book is so important. It's going to help you lay the foundation for that and then build up from there. And so, especially if you're younger, maybe, recently out of college, or maybe you're, a young person recently out of the military, the best thing you can do is start building those professional relationships so that over time, when you do need to job hunt again, you have people there that already know you, and you can, at that point, then if you know the people well, so when you call them and say, hey, Sally, I'm thinking about making a switch, Sally can say, well, listen, I'm hearing about stuff. So what is it you're looking to do? Because maybe I know of something that'll work for you, right? And then Sally can refer you in, and bang, you're on the top of the stack instead of, with all the hoi pollois, they used to call it, being screened by, computer screening models for, resumes and that kind of stuff, automated resume screeners and such. So, okay. So that's where Steve Dalton's book really makes a difference. Okay. So those are 4, right? 4 books. None of them are very expensive, maybe $20 at the most. I think, What Color's Your Parachute? I think what was it? $18 for the book. So they're all, well within your range of affordability. Okay. The last book I want to talk about, and I've mentioned it, many times before on the show, is the book that I wrote, now it's about 5 years ago, called The 8 Deadly Sins of Job Hunting. Okay. It's, and by the way, I came up with that title in part by using Alexandra Watkins's book. So this is literally a 5-step task-by-task process for finding a job you will love. Okay. That is why I wrote it. Okay. And unlike the other books, if you want a copy of this book, a PDF copy, all you need to do, send me an email, and I will send you a link, and you can download a PDF at no cost. Okay. So this book is absolutely free to you if you want it. And I just want to show you. Here you go. Okay. So I talk about the various deadly sins. I've done a show on that, so I'm not going to get into that. But what I want to go back to something that I mentioned when I was talking about What Color Is Your Parachute. Let me see if I can get this up here. Okay. I mentioned, see, it keeps going back. I don't know what the deal is. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right, I give up. Right here, set your mission and goals. This is step 1. Okay, set your mission and goals. And it's crucial. Now, by the way, for those of you who are thinking about starting a business, this book will also help you with that process as well. It's not as obvious because this is geared specifically to job hunting. The reality, though, is these days the process is not so different. Okay. And especially with step number 1, well, actually really steps number 1 and 2, these are going to be the same, really, whether you're job hunting or whether you're starting a business. And they come down to defining your purpose and mission, setting goals, and then figuring out where you are most valuable in the marketplace. Okay. And when I say in the marketplace, some people say marketplace, what are you going to sell me? I don't mean it like that. I mean the job marketplace, the business marketplace. In other words, where is your knowledge and experience going to be most valuable? Okay. So once you've set your mission and goals, then you want to look at, well, okay, I know what my missions and goals are. Now, what is the most effective way for me to pursue my mission and reach my goals, right? And that's what your UVP is, your unique value proposition is that's what I call it. It's a takeoff on a sales concept. Okay, that's where this comes into play. Okay, even if you've been in the professional world for a long time, if you're not clear on your purpose, mission, goals, and UVP, and you're thinking about going job hunting, I recommend you go through these exercises. Okay, each chapter is a task. So we see chapters 4 through, so there's 9 chapters here, 9 tasks to do to figure this out. Okay, and before you just assume, well, I've been in, I don't know, pharmaceutical sales for the last 15 years, I guess I'm going to have to go get another job in pharmaceutical sales, even though I really don't like it that much. Well, maybe you don't have to get another job in pharmaceutical sales. Maybe if you were to look and figure out what's my purpose, what's my mission, what are my goals, then once you know that, and then you look at your UVP, maybe there's other things you can do. You can take the skills, knowledge, and experience that you learned, that you've developed so far, and move into a different field that you'll find much more enjoyable and therefore have greater success in. Okay, so other than that, and like I said, I've done a class on the 5 steps and all of that, so I'm not going to go through it here. I've done a show on them. If you're interested in those, again, go to my YouTube channel, The Way to Wow Show, and find the episode on the 5 steps to finding a high-paying job. That'll give you an introduction to the book so you can see what it's all about. And I've also talked about different parts of the book. I think I've talked about resume writing. I've talked about developing relationships. And I know not just recently I did a show on Act for Success. So there's lots and lots of good material in here. But the main thing is it takes you step by step, task by task through the job hunting process. So you never have to worry about all just schedule 1 task a day or 2 tasks a day, whatever you're going to do. Remember that unless you're already employed, job hunting and starting a business is a full-time job. Okay, one of the things they talk about, that Richard Bowles talks about in What Color's My Parachute, is most people are not successful in their job hunts excuse me, because they job hunt for maybe an hour to 2 hours a day and then watch television for the rest of the time. Excuse me. That is not going to be a successful job hunt. And for sure, it's not going to be a successful plan for starting a business. So if you're going to job hunt or start a business, that needs to be your full-time employment. Like I said, unless you got another job, obviously then you're doing it in your spare time, and your progress is going to be slower as a result, and that's fine. You got to keep your other job. Okay. But if you're not currently employed, then this is your full-time job. Okay. And so just calendar it out, calendar the steps out, calendar the tasks out, and they're like appointments. So, okay. And put them in your calendar so that you make sure you get them done. All right. So those are the 5 books that I recommend for either starting a business or pursuing a job hunt. I'll go through them again real quickly, and they'll be on the in the show notes. So Pat Flynn's book, Will It Fly? Alexandra Watkins' book, Hello, My Name is Awesome. Those are for starting a business. Don't know what's going on here. And then for job hunting, What Color's Your Parachute? Like I said, this is the 216 version. Get the most up-to-date one. There's always new wrinkles in the job hunting field, and so get the 2022 edition, and then the 2-Hour Job Search, Steve Dalton's brilliant book on creating professional relationships, and then my book, The 5 Deadly Sins of Job Hunting. Feel free to reach out to me if you would like a copy of that book. That's it for today, folks. Hopefully you found this interesting. If you have thoughts about the show, please put them in the comments, send me an email. I'd love to hear them. Positive thoughts, of course, but if you have some constructive criticism, always open to hear it. If there's a subject you'd like to hear about in the job hunting or business startup world, or there's someone that you think would make a good guest for the show, please let me know. I'd love to be able to have that person on or address whatever topic you have on your mind to make the show even more worthwhile for you. So thanks very much for joining me this afternoon. I really appreciate it. And as I always do, sign off by saying, Marie, darling, you are still my belle. All the best, folks. See you next week.